I don't want you to normalize wanting to quit every day, because that is not the point behind having a business. And if that's happening to you, you need to fucking regulate yourself. You need to learn how to separate your emotions from the story that your emotions create for you, and you need to learn how to be a feeling human at the same time as being a badass business owner. You're listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, a business and mindset coach who specializes in imposter syndrome. If you feel like you're not as smart, capable, or worthy as you actually are, and that someone is going to find you out, then you've come to the right place. I went from being a struggling government worker, working my coaching business on the side, but feeling unworthy and burnt out, to making multiple six figures helping women overcome imposter syndrome so they too can sign clients, make bank, and have the business or career of their dreams. I am nothing special. I have a stuttering disability, ADHD, and I struggle with anxiety and depression. So if I can learn how to feel good enough and overcome my inner imposter, then so can you. Let's dig in. Hey, my loves, welcome back to the pod. We are officially in March and your girl turns 33 this month. Keep your eyes out for the birthday sale. But yeah, I turned 33 on March 21st. It's a Friday this year and I'm going to the spa with my girlfriend. So there is obviously no better way that I could spend my birthday than going to the fucking spa, if you really know me. So let's talk about a thread that I made like a month ago. If you're not on Threads, if you don't follow me on Threads, what the fuck are you doing? It's your coach Jill, just like Instagram. I love it over there. It's so fun. And I made a thread about how I never wanted to quit my business, how I've never wanted to. And this was inspired by a post that I saw on the Explore feed. I've seen this kind of post before where people say things like, I burned my whole business down, or I wanted to quit when they like suffer from a minor inconvenience in their business. And I decided to write a thread in response to these posts that I had seen before around wanting to quit. As somebody who is a generator in human design, I really love responding to things. So when I see something that triggers an opinion or triggers a thought and I can talk about it, it's not so much me like taking inspiration from someone and what they're saying and just regurgitating it. It's more me responding to it in terms of like, this is what I saw and this is what I think about it. This is what I believe. This is the thought process that was triggered by me responding to this thing. So this was not about a specific person or anything like that at all. It was simply the existence of this thought that people will put into their posts, like, I wanted to quit, and they use it as a hook in their content. And it's probably because it's something that is going to grab somebody's attention because it's so extreme, right? Like, I wanted to quit my business, right? It's like, what could that possibly be about? So it could also be clickbait, but a lot of people do use it as a hook. And then they go into, the inevitable, how they actually didn't quit and it actually turned out to be the best thing ever and they made all this money, blah, 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 blah. But the way that I chose to respond to it was me being like, I have never wanted to quit because that's just the truth. It really is. So when I first started my business, I was working full-time for the government and it was 2018, but I didn't make any money until 2019. And even then, I really only made like $12,000 in 2019. And then I made $130 in 2020. So big jump there. And when I started in 2018, I was working again full-time for the government and I continued to up until the spring of 2021. So that entire time I had made multiple six figures while still working Monday to Friday, 40 plus hours a week, in addition to running my business, launching, creating courses, doing group programs, all of those things, right? Having a podcast, everything. It's actually crazy when I think about it. I'm like, damn. That bitch worked hard. I was doing all of those things, and even in my most exhausted state, even when I was so frustrated that things weren't working, even if I was having a hard emotional day, and I had a lot of them, I never wanted to quit. Have I had the thought of, do I really want to be doing this? Maybe, but there was never a doubt in my mind that I was going to get where I am today, which is working for my business full time, working with the best fucking clients, living in a beautiful house that I would not have been able to live in without having a business, right? So I also had my dream wedding that we wouldn't have been able to pay for if it weren't for my business. There are just so many amazing things that I have now because I decided to keep fucking going. And I just always knew that I was the one, that I was the 1% that I was going to be successful. And that is what I truly believe. That I was going to be successful, even if there were going to be hardships and it was fucking exhausting running a business at the same time as having a full-time job. It didn't matter because it was all adding up and it was all compounding for me. And I've talked about this many times in the podcast where when you have a timeline on your success, or if you, let's say, invest in a coach and you're like, this is my last hope, or I'm investing and I better make my investment back within a time frame of this offer, Like, I have invested so much money, and there have been a lot of times where I've invested and I haven't had an immediate ROI. And it didn't come until later, until the course is over, until the program is over, whatever it is, right? But I don't go into an investment. I don't go into thinking about my business like it's a cash cow, right? Seeing it as like, if I put this in, it's going to spit this out on this timeline. That's not how I see it. I see it as I'm building an empire. I'm building a brand. And I am becoming the person who has those things. And of course, I have responsibilities and bills and all the things that I need to pay for. I'm obviously not just sitting around being like, I don't need to make money this month, right? But what I am doing is knowing that I'm building something and not just seeing my business on a 30-day timeline or a 60-day timeline or a 90-day timeline, whatever the fuck is in your head that you need to kibosh right now if you want to make a lot of fucking money. Like, you really have to release the fucking timeline or you shouldn't be here. If you want to build a big fucking brand, you have to be okay with it taking time. And this doesn't mean that you're not making money in between this time. It just means that you want to be a business owner. You want to work with people. You want to grow your impact. You want to do the work that you came here to do. Okay, so in a long-winded way, we're getting back to the thread. So I was essentially saying, I've never wanted to quit. I've never wanted to burn it all down. And I attributed this to my emotional strength because I have nervous system tools, because I have utilized the power of my mindset and the subconscious mind. And this is everything I do, right? Like, I do the subconscious work with my clients. I do the mindset work with them. I do the nervous system regulation work with them. We do the strategy, ultimately, so they can feel powerful as fuck, so they know that they have something so valuable to offer, and so they can sell their services online. People had some very strong opinions about this thread, you guys. Like, go back on my threads and scroll through because, it was a lot. There were a couple people in particular that had a very strong opinion about it, that I was not being neuro-affirming, meaning that I was not being sensitive to neurodivergent people. And I could probably do a whole podcast episode about that as well, because I don't like that people use their neurodivergence or anything as a crutch or as a reason as to why they can't do things. And you guys, I have, like, the majority of the clients that I work with have ADHD. A lot of them have chronic illnesses. A lot of them have kids. A lot of them have things that you would think are a great excuse to be like, I can't do this, I can't do that. But the best clients are the ones who don't see it as a limitation. Again, I could go on and on about this, and I probably will. But I just don't like when people use neurodivergence as a crutch. And I see this a lot on threads when somebody's like, hey, I need help with this thing, but I have ADHD, I have ASD, and they start being like, here are all of the reasons why I can't do everything that you're suggesting to me, right? Instead of learning to, like, work with your brain and learning how to just do the things in a way that works for you instead of just avoiding them altogether. Anyways, some people don't even realize that they're doing it, and this might trigger you or trigger somebody who is extremely neuro-affirming and it's just like, nope, like, it absolutely is a reason to not do the things you have to do. But if I'm being honest, running a business, there are a lot of things that it requires, and you can't just sidestep some of the things, right? You really can't. So anyways, again, I could do a whole podcast episode on that. But as somebody who is neurodivergent, I would not speak on this if I wasn't. Like, hello, if I wasn't diagnosed, it's the same reason why I don't go on and on and on about having kids, because I don't fucking know yet. And when I do know, I'll feel like I can talk about it. But however, I will say that I have tons of clients that have kids and they succeed. Like, they're great. They're good. And it's the people that use their kids as a crutch that I can't fucking stand. Anyways, like I said, if I didn't get diagnosed as neurodivergent, if I had no idea what the fuck I was talking about, I wouldn't fucking speak on it. But because I am neurodivergent, because I have coached so many people who are, I feel more than qualified to speak on this, right? So these people who were upset at me in threads, they thought that I was shaming people for having emotions or for having thoughts like, I want to burn it down or I want to quit, right? Somebody even said it was very, like, privileged of me to never want to quit anything. And I was just like, I don't even know what that fucking means. So anyways, everyone was like, it's super normal to want to quit. It's super normal to burn it all down. And the truth is that it's only normal to people because they're dysregulated. Again, when I discovered the nervous system regulation work, when I did the mindset work and the subconscious work, there was not a thought in my brain to quit. And truthfully, there never has been. Like, I just knew, okay, this is going to be hard and this is something that I want. It didn't just occur to me that I would ever want to quit. Like, do I feel sad sometimes? Yep. Do I feel frustrated? Yes. Do I feel angry? Yes. I'm a human being. But when it comes to my business, regulating my nervous system and having tools that allow me to speak the language of my emotions and understand this is just a feeling that I'm having in my body. I don't need to react to it with my thoughts. I don't need to react to it with anxiety. I don't need to react to it with my actual actions and behaviors. That is when my life changed. And for real, it wasn't just on the business front. It was in my personal life, in my relationships, in my friendships, everything. When I learned to create a gap between the emotions that I was feeling and how I responded to them, everything fucking changed. And what I was saying was that you become strong emotionally. And I use that interchangeably with resilient. Like, emotionally strong and emotionally resilient to me are the same things. Being emotionally strong is a necessary fucking skill as a business owner and something that people just do not have. The majority of people don't. They don't know how to regulate their emotions without taking action from their emotions. They don't know how to just see their emotions as a feeling without attaching a story to it. And I also think that this is unacceptable as a business owner because when you are growing a business, it is going to test you mentally. It's going to test you emotionally. It's going to test you in so many ways, and it is a fucking requirement to be strong emotionally. And this is not me saying that you can't have your emotions. Obviously, you're a human being. This is me saying that there are tools and things that you can use that are going to make running your business so much easier than it currently is, because that's the thing, right? By the time you're listening to this, I've probably already created it, but I have this idea about doing a reel where I'm showing what happens when you don't have imposter syndrome anymore and you're going through your everyday life versus when you actually do struggle with imposter syndrome and how it shows up in your everyday life. I could say the same thing for being dysregulated and not knowing what to do about it, right? There's no shame in having emotions. There's no shame in being dysregulated, but where there should be responsibility is utilizing tools and doing the things that are going to help you create a bigger gap between the thing occurring and your reaction to it. So I'm going to use an example from a client that I worked with years ago, okay? I had a lot of anxiety working with this client because she herself was such a high anxiety person, and whenever she was experiencing an emotion, she would spiral into story. She would spiral into stories about herself, her income, this and that. And at that time, I did my very best, but my own nervous system work, I really could have used that during that time because I hadn't been certified in those tools yet, but I really could have used it because not only was she super anxious, but I would take on her anxiety. She still got amazing results, but it was from such a high anxiety place that even when she would get great results, we would still have to work through a lot of things. So, as I said, I would take on her emotions. And so what would happen is, for example, she would get a defaulted payment from a client or something like that, or somebody would say no to her in the DMs and she would spiral and she would start saying things like, should I even be doing this? I'm going to quit. And just having these very extreme black or white thoughts. The actual circumstance of somebody saying no, or the actual circumstance of a client defaulting on a payment, these things are not the problem. They happen. They don't have to happen often, but I think the more successful you get, the more often you hear no, and the more chance that there are circumstances that do happen, right? And she had a bunch of clients, she was making money, blah, blah, blah. But regardless, events in business are not something that you can just pick and choose to avoid, because what you're actually doing is avoiding discomfort, and then you'll realize, oh my God, I'm not making any money because you're trying to avoid feeling anything at all, instead of realizing that it is you that needs to change. It is you and your reactions that need to change. It's like looking at your bank account. Some people have a really hard time doing that when it's just numbers on a screen. And if you find yourself avoiding doing certain things because you know it's going to send you into a spiral, that is great awareness. But now let's take that awareness a step further and be like, we need to figure out how to do the thing without spiraling. Like we're aware that this thing triggers us, but we're not going to avoid it because that is not a CEO fucking behavior. And that can be really hard for people to hear. Because if you are neurodivergent and you have a sensitive nervous system, like I do, it can be very easy to avoid and to not take action on things because you already know how you're going to react. I can say this because I used to do it all the fucking time. It takes tremendous courage for you to be like, I know that this triggers me. I know that I purposely avoid these things because of my sensitive ass nervous system, but I'm going to make it my mission to overcome it. If I did not have and utilize this emotional resilience all of the time, I would not have been able to continue working my full-time job and running my business. I had just come off a huge launch when my childhood home burned down in 2020. And I was also competing for a permanent position in the job that I was in at that government agency. And so I was studying, I was getting ready for the interview. They're really intense, the interviews, and there was a lot of work that had to go into it. And then my childhood home burnt down. My parents and my sister were displaced. She had to come live with me. I had several clients that were relying on me. I had my full-time job still. And then I had to compete in this fucking competition. Like, it was a lot. But if I didn't have my nervous system tools, if I didn't do the mindset work or the subconscious work at all, I would have just been a walking, talking wound, so sensitive to everything. And of course, running a business and doing all of the things would have been so fucking difficult. And I'm not saying that it wasn't, but it was a lot easier because of the nervous system work that I was doing and the mindset work that I was doing too. There is no shame in having your emotions. And again, if you're neurodivergent and you're very sensitive and have a sensitive nervous system, I completely understand you. I completely get you. I've coached hundreds of women at this point that are neurodivergent. And when I work with my clients that have a very sensitive nervous system, I hold space for them, right? Like, I had clients responding to this thread and on the reel that I created too, being like, it's kind of funny that these people are trying to say that you aren't a supportive coach when they don't even know you, because I know you and you're an extremely supportive coach. But I also call my clients forward in terms of, okay, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to manage this? I'm supportive of them in doing what they need to do for themselves, but I never lose sight of their ultimate goals. I never lose sight of what they want to create inside of the container that they're in. And it's my job as their fucking coach to lead them instead of just allowing them to sit in their emotions without doing anything productive about it. And that is how you get shit done. You allow yourself to be a human, but at the same time realizing that you're not just a human being who's a wife, who's a mom, who's a partner, who's a sister, whatever. You are also a business owner. That is an identity that you hold, and you have responsibilities to yourself, to your dreams, to your business that need taking care of too, and you're the only person who can fucking do it. The great thing about being able to manage your emotions and regulate your nervous system is something that will not just benefit your business, it will change your entire life. It will have you thinking about how you react in your relationships to other people. It will make you a better person, not just a better, more resilient and consistent business owner. I don't want you to normalize wanting to quit every day, because that is not the point behind having a business. And if that's happening to you, you need to fucking regulate yourself. You need to learn how to separate your emotions from the story that your emotions create for you, and you need to learn how to be a feeling human at the same time as being a badass business owner. There is nothing that you cannot do. There's nothing that you cannot accomplish, and it all comes down to the way that you manage your mind and manage your emotions, because everything is incumbent on the words that you say, how you show up, and the actions that you take. Whether you make moves or if you don't make moves, that is what it comes down to. And what those things, your actions, behaviors, and habits come down to are your thoughts. The way you're thinking about yourself, about your business, about money, about your circumstances, about hope. It's all in conjunction with each other. One of the first steps is going to be to utilize tools that are going to make feeling your emotions not a fucking catastrophic event. And here's the thing, you already know this. You already know that you either have to get fucking regulated or you're doing it. You're doing that thing and you're listening to this and you're in complete agreement that, yeah, it is a fucking requirement to be emotionally resilient, emotionally strong, however the fuck you want to say that. When I wrote that thread, I did say emotionally strong, and people were so up in arms about that part. But it's so funny because I honestly see them as two sides of the same coin. As I said, emotionally resilient does mean emotionally strong, and you do become more emotionally strong when you use use the nervous system tools. When you have a more regulated nervous system, you're not as anxious, you aren't as flighty, you aren't as reactive, and that's just the truth. And you make fuck tons more money. You make so much more money because your actions are not dictated by your emotions. You're able to show up and sell even on days when you don't feel 100%. You don't make a client defaulting on a payment or somebody saying no mean anything about you, your worth, or what you have to offer the world. You don't let a circumstance or a thought affect how you feel about yourself and what you think you deserve. And that can have a domino effect when you do not know how to manage your emotions, when you let every little thought that crosses your mind affect you negatively, when you take a circumstance in business that is very normal and you turn it into something about you and what's wrong with you. That is going to affect your income eventually because it affects your behaviors, it affects your habits, and it's going to affect everything if you do not know how to fucking handle yourself as a business owner. This is one of the biggest side effects that my clients experience when they come to work with me, a more relaxed nervous system and a more consistent and sturdy state of thinking, where they are not a victim to their circumstances or their thoughts. They know how to think neutrally about the things going on inside of their business. They know how to stand in their worth even on an off day so they can continue to make the money that they want to make. So if you're ready to do this work with me, if you're ready to do the mindset work, the subconscious work, and the nervous system regulation work, and when you're ready to implement the personalized and custom strategy that feels easy and good to you when it comes to your content, when it comes to your sales process, come and work with me inside of the From Imposter to Empowered program. This is my premium coaching membership where there is a combination of curriculum and hot seat coaching as well as Slack support 2 times a week. There's a lot of support inside of this offer, and this is one of the only containers I believe in the online space that really masterfully combines the mindset work with the strategy. The link is in my show notes if you're looking instead for some more one-to-one customization and you want to work with me at a higher level. You can DM me at your coach Jill and we'll see which container is the best fit for you. I love you guys and I'll see you next week. Hey babe, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Screenshot it and put it on your stories and tag me at your coach Jill. And if you really love me, you'll rate and review the podcast. And if you screenshot it before you submit the review and send it to me, I will send you a free gift on me. If you want to take this work deeper, come and work with me in the From Imposter to Empowered program or the Real Deal Mastermind. And finally, if you want just a snippet of my work to feel what it's like to be in my world, then you need to buy my best-selling book, You're Not Special, and you can get that on Amazon. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next week.